Okay, now we are live and welcome to the weekly analysis, the technical analysis from me. And yeah, I hope you had a great week and let's get started. So what are we talking about today? We call in talking. My my English today very bad. What we are talking today about the put and call ratio, that what the dump money and the smart money are doing, then obviously what we can expect from the coming week, and then we look on the charts. So let's get started. So what do we see? We see here the put and call ratio from the OEX, and if we going back, because this is the next picture, we see that the smart money are really betting with put options to a fall on the market, right? That the market is falling down. And we saw same situation as well on the 2000er, on the dot-com bubble. If we seeing that here, we see that we have similar situations on 2001, 2000s, when we spiked up as well. And this is very, very interesting because nevertheless, every time when we had a spike to the upside, we had as well the correction in the market. So we might see that the market is going into the correction of the S&P 500. If we're looking further down, and we're seeing as well on 2001, if we had the record on put options, right, we see that was nearly the high in the market, and then the market burst down to the downside. If we're going even further and checking 2007 and 2008, where we had the financial crisis, we see same situation, right? We've been really, really high. People been, or the smart money been shorting or expecting market to the fall side. That's why they bought a lot of put options. And as you see, we've been on the high of the market, right? If we're checking then all the highs in 2011, 2015, 2020, all times we saw a dump in the market. And we see the same situation 2022 when we had that. We saw that on 2022 and 2021 when we had the highest level since 1984. We saw as well the market went lower on the S&P 500, and now we see the next spike, and we saw similar situation in 2001. And yeah, as you see, the put and call options are aggressively rising, which is an indication for that's the market, that the S&P 500 is coming lower again. And if you see the equity put call ratio, and this is not the smart money, you see as well every down we've been on lower levels here, we had the high on the market, right? And we can have the same situation right now as well. We are on lower levels right now, which means we have the high in the market. And I'm talking about this every time again, that the dump money is all times going to buy or trying to buy the reverse trend. So every time a market is in a trend, they're trying to fish the bottom. And this is exactly what we see here again. Every time when the market is falling down, right, people trying to buy into it and not buying with the trend. And if we're checking this one, this is what if we every time when it's getting harder to get credit, you see we've been into a recession and we had the fall in the market. And right now you see as well how we spiked up in March, and we saw that here when we spiked up, every time it was a really bad indication for the market. That's to that. Very important news as well. Argentina's central bank has run out of US dollars and started using customer deposit of USD, inflation is running hot, and imagine they have an inflation of 104%. And it has suspended operations for Monday. And it's happening, guys. It's happening that the fiat is crashing. And we don't see that only in Argentina. We see that in other countries as well. And it's just a matter of time when this thing is coming over to the US dollar as well. If we're checking the housing affordability index, we see as the last time we've been that low, it was at the housing market crash in 2008. If we're looking here on the latest lows over there, which is as well not a good sign. And yeah, and then if we're checking now the next week, this kind of interesting. We get the GDP data and we get the PCE data, which is very, very important. One of the most important ones for the Fed, as we all know. And if we're checking the CME watch tool, we see as well that we have 90% possibility to get a 25 basis point on the next meeting, which is in 10 days. Exactly in 10 days, which is pretty interesting. If we're checking the next probabilities, people still thinking that we might see, as I said in the latest meeting, I see the pivot from the Fed is coming as soon unemployment rate is higher than inflation. Currently, we have an unemployment rate of 3.5%. We have inflation at 5%. And as soon as inflation coming lower and unemployment rate gets higher, then the Fed will pivot. But I don't think that the Fed will pivot before. I don't see a reason. So it makes sense. If the market thinks the same I think, then we could assume that we see the next crash in like one month. Nearly, yeah, that's not 1 month, but 1.5 months. And next week, we get as well the earnings data, which is pretty interesting. We get Coca-Cola, Philips, we get UPS, Microsoft, Alphabet, really interesting. Everyone is waiting for that. Visa, Spotify, we get Meta. So very interesting what we get. We get MasterCard, Intel, Amazon, American Airlines. So very interesting earnings on the next week, and this will be volatile because people will look at this, and as well Credit Suisse. And yeah, very interesting. If we're looking still on the same chart, as I said the last time, when we came around 16 billion of open interest excluding BTC, we could also see the top in the market. So again, if I enter this line for you guys at 16 billion, right? You see every time we coming to this line, we found, let me make that as a purple color. Every time we come here, we see top in the market, 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 top in the market. And now we've been close by to it as well. And it might be the top of the market of this cycle again. And again, I said it on my previous week as well in the German webinar, I'm now more bearish than before. And yeah, if we look into this chart, which is the market cap of USDT dominance, we see every time when the dominance was low on USDT, we had the high as well in the market. And this is not a good sign. And every time we've been very high, it was the top of the market. And you see here, we didn't been even to the highest level, so there's very high potential still to the upside to get money back into USDT. So I still think again that we might see here the top, and the market could see the correction to the downside. So yeah, we will see what's happening. Maybe we see something like that we maybe don't make a new low, but coming back below 16,000, 17,000. This is possible. And let's get into the charts, because the charts are really interesting as well. Let's start with this chart, because this chart is really interesting. And I want to show you again the same chart I was showing you the last time. It was this one, right? if you remember this one. And I was saying that I don't expect this one to happen in BTC. So I said that we don't gonna see this one market moves higher to this market structure shift. I don't see that coming, that we see the same situation here. And as I said, we might see more likely this one, because we had similar situation here, where everyone was expecting same situation, that market is now moving to the downside. Myself included. I was thinking the same, that we now moving lower after we triggered the low from here. But in the end, because everyone was expecting that, the market pumped up. And I have another interesting way. And exactly if you're looking at this chart, and if we're looking from this low to this high, right, and you taking these candles, you see that we perfectly triggered this movement here, that we perfectly had these candles here. And now I think, and if we think, this looks, for myself, for if I seeing the chart, looks really beautiful. If we're taking again, then this low to this low, we might see something like that, right? And then market moves lower, and we might see this here to 10,000, coming back to this highs here. This is what I think we might see, because it looks super, super beautiful. And again, we have here as well a fair value gap. I don't think that we come to the 8,000 level. That would be really drastically. But that we come exactly, look how perfectly it matched to this level, to this highs here at 10,000. So I think that this is the best market opportunity we could see for the market. And if we're checking the dollar index, it's still going lower. But as you see, BTC is even more weaker, because comparing to BTC, BTC is going even lower and faster lower than the dollar index. So as soon as the dollar index shows some strength, we could see some further down moves in BTC as well. But maybe as well last week, dollar index was just sideways here. It was not much moving here. We took out this low we took out this low here. His line was not straight. But I still think that we still can go lower here. The 1,101 level was perfectly the last time. I think this time, when we go lower, we will maybe take out the lows here as well. So the next time we will come at around 99.30. And yeah, but again, if I'm checking the market here, if we're getting a close above it, right, and we're trying to manage to get a close over that one, then we can go even higher. So yeah, so as soon as we get a close here, then I think the next target will be 103.50, and then again this one 105, and then we have this one. But again, there must be a reason why the US dollar has to be strong. Last time it was because we increased the interest rates, but if we don't increasing them anymore, there's no reason why USD should pump up. If we're checking the S&P 500, S&P 500 took out perfectly this sell side liquidity, buy side liquidity. We are still here on our monthly VWAP, right? It's still holding super strong. And we're comparing that with this anchored one. We see we are here on a pinch, right? As soon as market closing above this one, we might see a reversal to the upside again, and then maybe taking out this one, because I still want to see this buy side liquidity taking out. This is what I want to see. And again, if we see that smart money is still going to short the market, doesn't matter if we're going higher, because I still think there's no reason why we went that crazy. Yeah, look, we have this double top here, so I still think that we might going to close above this one, taking out this level and coming back to this level. That's what I definitely wanted to see before we go further down. If we checking now the Nasdaq, in my live trading session, I said that this one is the perfect level to short the market. It was nice, but as you see, we still have a higher level here. But I still think what the market will take out. So I still think we will come to this level, 13,350, and then going lower. But again, we have this level open here as well. And this one as well. As you see, the last ones been acting as resistance or support in this case pretty well. But we have still this one open. And we have this one open. And we have this yearly, or in this case it's not yearly, it is monthly pivot point open. So normally we will take this out and the market will not leave it open. Market normally comes back to that. And yeah, I still think as well that the Nasdaq will come back to this level. And but we can still see some higher moves to the upside. But now the question is BTC. BTC first time of this month. We got the close below this volume area low for this month, which is interesting as well. We didn't touch our daily pivot, monthly pivot. If we're checking it on this chart here, let's go to the daily first. We see we are back here on the EMA, getting some support over there. The next good support zone for shorting the market is here at around 28,560. Marks this level because it looks super beautiful. We have here this breaker block, this fair value gap. We had this up trend line which got broken, so a little pullback looks nice for then coming lower because this is the 50, and if the market comes below the 50, then we normally touch the 201, and the 201 would be at 21,000 and as well below our big trend line, which would lead us to new lows normally because we all times take out liquidity when we have liquidity below it, and that means we will come back to 16,000. And this is super interesting. As well, we see right now the BTC comparing to the S&P 500 is very weak. So the BTC is weaker than the S&P 500. We have really low volume right now in the market. So as you see, there's nothing, right? Nothing. But normally every time we had really low volume, it happens into a big crash to the downside. And we might see that here as well. As you see, no volume at all. Nothing. The last time we had this big volume was here in May 2022. So very, very, very low volume. And you don't need much here to move the markets. But again, it's a question about who should buy the market right now. And I don't see anyone who should buy the market at the moment. If we going into ETH, right? ETH is as well on the short side for myself. Possible that we come back to this level here at 20,048. It's a big short side here, but we had, or we still have this one open, right? We still have this one open, this lows here at 1,681. These lows are still open. And again, then we have this big trend line open as well at 1,500 up to, obviously, when we have Monday, then the level will be here at 1,600. But very, very interesting as well. And I think this is the most important level to watch. Very important level is this one here at 1,654. And if we're going to break this level, right, then we can come to this trend line. And if we're going to break this trend line, then we could go back to this sell side liquidity here at around 1,050. Yes, 1,050. It's back in place if we could come to below 1,500. And if we're checking the volume on the daily, let's see. Volume is still big. We lost some volume over the last 2 days, but nothing special. We have weekend, so nothing problematic. But we have high volume still right now. But you see, volume is getting lower and lower. Yeah, all right, you see that from here. Volume is getting lower and lower, which is as well a possibility that the market is exhausted and we might come lower. So very, very interesting. We might saw that here as well. Look, when we had price going higher and volume went lower, then market fall down as well. So we might see that here as well. At the moment, ETH comparing to BTC is still stronger, but again, I still see this one on the short side. And yeah, we might see as well next week a big dump to the downside because we have here sell side liquidity. What is holding right now is this naked point of control. But I don't see this one holding long. We might still retrace a bit higher, right? Coming back here into this important high at 2037. But you see, as further we come up, we have more resistance to the upside. We have here this monthly VWAP at 1940. We have then this weekly VWAP from last week at 1973. And then we have as well the close from the last week. So very, very big resistance over there. So the market just needs to break that through before we can go higher. And as we all know, the sellers from last week and from the months, very important, from this month, from the last week, right, are under control of the market, right? And if we closing below 1793, then since the push from 1400, right, and we are trading below this one, then the sellers are back on control. So this is a really big support for buyers right now, for the buyers in the market at 1795. And if we manage to close below it, right, then sellers are back on control and maybe buyers already took some profits. But we still didn't saw that in the market. As you see here, every time when the line moves higher, we see some new buyers coming in, right? And I still want to see that we have something like that, right? A decline in this line. Then it would give me the hint that we have more sellers right now in the moment. Sellers are in control and the market moves lower. But again, I'm still not positive and I don't see why the market should pump up. I said that before, we don't see that on the on-chain data. We don't see big whales pushing the market up. We see more that the bottom or the higher prices was used to get out of the market and not for buying into the market, and more dump money is buying the tops right now. If we checking right now the BNB, we came back into our volume area here. Big support is this one that we want to see close below this level here. If we taking an AVAP from this low here, from this important push to the downside, you see here are buyers still in control. Since this level we got new buyers in, right? Since this candle here, new buyers came in. It was big resistance here, and now we can assume when we draw this one, I just draw it because other people might draw this line, and I want to see where they think the market could head to. And yeah, you see this line is the blue line here is the yearly line, and you see the buyers are not much on a big control of the market, right? Because we are more coming lower, higher, now we are above it, okay, it's positive. We got as well on the daily line a big crunch to the upside here, as you maybe see that, right? And it's okay, so it was influenced here on this line, but I still think as soon as we're coming below this level here, then we have this pivot point, and if we're trading below this level here at 305, then we could definitely go lower and then testing this trend line. And then I guess if this trend line is going to break, we might see this liquidity below this 265 and the liquidity below this level here at 318. If we checking here ADA is super weak, weaker than as well the BT comparing to BTC. We could still not manage to touch our pivot point. If we going to check this line here, you see sellers are under control since this move. If we're checking the whole move from the downside here, right, this one, you see we are on important situation right now where the buyers have the possibility to come back into the race or not. If we're coming from here, from this top here, we see sellers. And this is crazy, right? This one means that the average selling price was here at this price. So super, super crazy. And yeah, it looks like that we saw new sellers coming on the top, right? And the whole move to the downside was some liquidations. But again, most important one is this yearly line at 0.3636. And if we come below that, then again, we might see this level as the next target and then maybe the lower levels. If we're coming, because we don't need to make a pivot from this level here, because the market already did it. And you can see that here, if we make this one above this line, you see as soon as we broke this line, right, it act as support and resistance, right, and the buyer's been under control again, right? You see that here, buyer's been back under control. We had this monthly line, buyers under control. We have the contraction here, and then we had the push to the upside. So yeah, very important line here at 0.3753. So again, if this mark is not holding, then we could go lower as well. Yeah, that's to my analysis. I hope you like it. And again, I will write the newsletter about that as well in text form. I still think that there's a possibility to go a bit higher, but I wouldn't buy, like, I'm absolutely transparent, as you saw that as well in the live trading on Thursday, but I'm still not buying BTCs, and I'm just gonna buy BTCs as soon I would inform you as well if I would do that, but I'm not doing it at the moment. But as well, this is not a financial advice. You could do whatever you like. It's your money. But yeah, I'm still out of BTC. I'm still not buying it. And as soon as we are below 20,000, then I would buy again. But above it, I'm still not buying because there's no reason to why I should. So in this case, have a great day.